What's up, gamers? It's your boy, JKon. Welcome to another episode of Spike Defused, the show where I recap the VCT games that have happened so far and diffuse the knowledge to the masses. Today's games in Americas were pretty fun in the NA versus Brazil matchups, and Pacific and EMEA would have some solid ones as well. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're not, welcome back. I've been co-streaming the Americas games over on my Twitch channel at twitch.tv/JKonTV, so feel free to stop by anytime during this super week and say hi. Sorry I wasn't able to get part 2 of week 2 out in time. I had it almost finished, but alas, here we are in week 3. C'est la vie, c'est la vie. Anyways, without further delay, let's get into it. Let's start out with today's slate of games in the Americas, and we had Sentinels take on MIBR, and this would be honestly an absolute Sen masterclass as they completely demolished MIBR, taking a dominant 2-0 victory with a 13-3 win on Lotus and a 13-7 win on Bind. I really want to shout out MIBR because I thought that they had really cool ideas when they won rounds, especially with coordinating some of their utility, but those rounds would come very rarely in this series, and when they did pull off those rounds, it would cost them a lot. I'm talking about 5 volts into the round in order to secure it. Pretty tough for them, but you could kind of tell that there's quite a bit of a gap between these two teams. Tens would absolutely fry on Lotus, putting up an 18-7-9 scoreline with 295 ACS, and he had an incredible 1v2 clutch to all but put the game away. In terms of scoreline, he was matched by his 1-2 punch combo with JKon, who put up 18-10-4 with 319 ACS, and it was really nice to see the two of them bounce back, especially as both of them had a tough series against Leviathan. If both of them showed up like how they showed up today, I don't doubt that they could have beaten Lev last week, but hey, it's okay to lose a series or two once in a while. Bind would be another masterclass from the two, as Tens would put up 16-8-13 with 207 ACS on the get-go, and JKon, oh man, we're just gonna glaze JKon here for a little bit, ladies and gentlemen. He put up 22-14-6 with 330 ACS with 8-3 first kills to first stats, and this man was just making plays and highlights like no other. There was a play where JKon was stuck in hookah, and he knew that Artizine would have his showstopper and tried to jump him. As Artizine casted his showstopper, JKon would throw down a satchel, use it to hop over the missile that landed at his feet, and while JKon was descending from the sky, he would headshot Artizine on his way down. And let me tell you, that's just kind of absurdity if you ask me, and that should just not be allowed, and I would be offended if that happened to me, honestly, personally. But dude, JKon is just so consistent with this. This is not the first time that he has dodged a raised showstopper with his satchel, and I don't doubt that he won't do it again. So JKon continues to show that he is one of the best players in the world. He will not take the title of best player in the world, and I like his mindset of staying hungry and humble. I think one of the things that a lot of people do is that they rest on their laurels once they reach a certain point, and you can see that the hunger and desire within him to be the best really is pertinent, and that's super important, and that's great to have in a young superstar like him. Anyways, overall, the feeling of this matchup, it really came down to how a championship built roster takes on like a development roster. It really felt like a Nuggets versus Jazz matchup. If you're into the NBA, you have a championship winning team that has great synergy and chemistry, and then you're playing against a rebuilding team that has maybe a couple veterans and some newcomers, and they're trying to see where they fit within the league. Yeah, that's kind of how this matchup felt. Anyways, let's move on to the next matchup from today from Americas, and it was Cloud9 versus Loud. And there's only one question that you have to say: what does this mean for Cloud9's legacy? Because holy moly, are Cloud9 on a roll. This was an absolute banger of a series in my opinion, as both teams played quite well, although it really would come down to Loud getting quite outclassed really, and Vanity just outcalling Sadak. And you have to shout out Vanity there, because I think on display throughout this entire series is really the epitome of Vanity calling what it means to play a default, getting information, cutting sound, rotating around the map, moving and having a flow of macro all the time. And that's a very fluid kind of call style, and that's Vanity's call style, and it worked against Loud today. Speaking of Cloud9, there's only one guy that people continue to talk about, and I will talk about him, and it's Oxy, because this kid is absolutely insane. He is a maniac, and he is a non-stop highlight machine. I'm telling you, if you just want some crazy highlights, Go watch some Oxy highlights. This kid is on something, let me tell you. Oxy would end the series going 63, 49, and 17 with 283 ACS, 17 to 13 first kills to first deaths, 13 double kills, 5 triple kills, and an ace to boot. And boy, oh boy, was that ace pretty sexy on Icebox. And let me tell you, his pop off has to be turned into a GIF. Like, my God, it's so good. Anyways, bind was extremely back and forth, and it ended with a 6-6 half. And then eventually both teams were tied at 11-11. But Loud would have some incredible back-to-back rounds off the back of Les to close it out. Sadok would set him up with a beautiful breach ult on B long to knock up multiple members, and Les would kill 2 members that were there. And in the final round, Les would be able to clutch a 1v3 situation to put the game away, giving Loud the map 13-11. Icebox, on the other hand, was absolute domination from Cloud9 as they only dropped 4 rounds in the entire map. Oxy, of course, went crazy, and he would continuously crack open sites for Cloud9, whether it's with his eco buy round where he starts out with a Vandal, gets knives, or he just has a Guardian. This man will just open up sites like no other. And truly, you have to give it to the calling for C9 here. I was genuinely very impressed with Vanity's calling of being able to call freezes, cutting noise. One of the things that I want to highlight is Moose. I think fits into the system that Cloud9 have extremely well, as he is very good at being able to play independently. And you could see that on Icebox. He literally was on A by himself the mass majority of the game. And if his team grouped up with him, he was still there. If his team was B, he was still there. My man Moose was still A. But you know what? That's a really good role player, and you need consistency from your role players in order to succeed. And when you have a star player like Oxy, it's okay if you don't get all the frags, bro. No cap. Rooney would play incredibly well on the Sova on this map, and his re-signing to the roster is an extremely underrated move in my opinion, and he has really leveled up comparatively to last year. He would end Icebox with a 19-9-2 scoreline with 268 ACS. Now we get to the last map, and it was a little bit more contested than Icebox for sure, where we would have a 6-6 first half with Loud doing some very interesting economic strats. So Loud would win the pistol round, but on the second round, usually people's anti-eco round, they invested 1 Vandal and a Spectre into the round and kept 3 Ghosts, while Cloud9, who do their traditional buy Oxy a Guardian and let him go, which is their new second round force buy, which I am so much more in favor of comparatively to their Stinger force buy that they would do consistently last year. This Oxy go kill, where Vanity always sacks his money for him, has been working out quite well, and Cloud9 were able to convert the round. Although the follow-up round where Loud would have full money and econ for rifles, they did win, so maybe the funny econ strat worked, but I'm not with it. I'm not with it. I am not with it at all. Anyways, pretty much in the second half, once C9 got rifles, it was over from there. Zeppa stepped up this match. He played really well on the Sage on Icebox, but I really want to shout him out on this Gecko. He put up 20, 13, and 10, and he was up there in frags with Rooney, who put up 18, 13, and 8, and Oxy, of course, who put up 21, 16, and 8 with 285 ACS. Talking about Rooney once more, I think he was just so big for them in the last map, and again, I'm going to talk about the addition of him for this team. He is a pure initiator player that is able to flex to Viper, which is what I feel like a lot of Sova players back in the day had to learn. That's also why I went from a Sova player to a Viper player myself, because of this swap. And he plays both roles incredibly well. He has fulfilled the scan initiator role better than Vanity has. It allows Vanity to go back to his controller role, where he is quite comfortable on. You would see Vanity, of course, whip out the judge consistently throughout this game, because that's just who he is, but it just works better with this system. Rooney is ice cold. He is leveled up. Like I said earlier, he is leveled up in terms of gameplay. I think he's a much better player than he was last year. His chemistry with the team is really showing, and you always gotta fear Rooney Sheriff, man. Like, people know anytime that man's got a Sheriff in his hands, he is deadly. So want to shout out him. There was a string of rounds in a row for Cloud9 where Oxy would get a 3k, Zeppa would get a 3k, and the one that's chef's kiss on top for me is that Rooney would bait out Oxy, who had an op, let him die. Rooney would secure 3 kills and pretty much close out the map from there. So really nice showing from all 3 of them. The chemistry is vibing for this team. You can tell that the vibes are absolutely hitting. Speaking of Moose, although we did touch on him a little bit fitting into the system, he has been, I don't want to say loud, but he's been quiet for the most part, but he plays his role within this team incredibly well. He is a very, very good anchor. You could tell when Rooney on the Viper and him on Killjoy or Cypher, both of them just played the anchor role incredibly well. Moose is just a very good player, and although he's not putting up incredible numbers and people are like, oh, maybe he's not fragging better than Whippy, it's about the fit, it's about the chemistry. We've seen it with Sentinels. You can see how it works with this team, and Moose is no slouch because honestly he closed out Lotus with an incredible 4K and a 1v2 clutch. So shout out to Moose because the Moose is loose. One thing that we do want to highlight about Cloud9 though going forward is that they could end undefeated, which is incredible to think about, but their coming matches are 100 Thieves, which they can beat. As much as I've been on the 100 Thieves train, they can beat 100 Thieves. Like, this Cloud9 looks very, very good. That'll be a banger matchup coming up. They're gonna play Furia next. They can pretty much roll Furia in my opinion, and they'll play MIBR again in 2 weeks. And the MIBR that came out today, I'm pretty sure that C9 can beat them. So there's a big possibility for C9 at the end of this, and they might already book their ticket to playoffs. So it'll be very interesting to see how far they can really go. You know what I mean? Speaking of Loud though, they do have some work that they need to do. QCK and Tuiz definitely had an off series. And although the first map was close and the third map was close in the first half, a lot of it came down to heroics. Les was popping off like usual, just ripping off heads. And truly, like I said at the beginning of this part, they got outclassed here. So big ups to Cloud9. We did see them go on a momentous run during the regular season last year, so we'll see if that continues into playoffs, as they did fall off a little bit near the end of the year. Let's head over to EMEA, where I'm only going to cover a couple of series over there. The first one that I will be talking about is BBL versus Team Heretics, and you could just say this was an absolute frying from BBL because they're on one right now. I don't know what they're feeding them, but they are absolutely hitting. You know what they are feeding them? They're actually feeding them. You know, Eid or Ramadan is over now. You know, the fasting's over, and these boys are hitting. Kushner and Elite are proving their absolute skill in the game right now, and they have continued to level up. Kushner would end the series 49, 32, and 7 with 322 ACS and 19 to 8 first kills to first deaths. Elite, no slouch himself, would put up 35, 22, and 9 with 218 ACS and a 44% headshot percentage. Again, I know we say that headshot percentage is not everything, but like, damn, 44 is pretty high on 35 kills. BBL would take Split 13 to 7 and Sunset 13 to 10. Although in Sunset they did lose both pistols and anti-ecos, so that's a major swing in econ. So once BBL got rifles, let me tell you, they were ripping off their heads. Truly, the way that I can describe the series is that Heretics just got outgunned really handedly, and it's kind of unfortunate a little bit to see because this was Pat's last game with them, as Woot is now eligible and has his visa, so he will now be competing in the starting roster. And Pat did perform really well in that last series. He was their second best player, but damn, it's kind of a sad way to go out for him, unfortunately. But he's a great talent, and he definitely deserves a slot in tier 1 for sure. But talking about Woot, woo! Ladies and gentlemen, this is the rookie that I have been waiting to see in action this year. We've seen so many talented rookies this year, from Narrate, Martin, Tamazi, all the KC kids. You got to see the BBL boys. Like, damn, these young talents are really good. Vitality with Runner and Kicks look very good as well. But Woot, I'm on the Woot hype train. So I am ready to see what Team Heretics have with him coming up soon. So the future is bright for Heretics, although it's a little tough right now, as EMEA, I think there are some teams that are leveling up and getting better, namely NAVI and Vitality. Speaking of NAVI, we'll talk about their matchup versus Karmine Corps. And this series went to 3 maps, with each of them getting won pretty handedly by the map winner. NAVI's map pick a bind would not go their way, and literally you could say nothing went their way. They lost pretty much every single clutch that you could imagine. Pretty much all the clutches that you could have imagined went the way of Karmine Corps. And although NAVI had a 7-to-5 first blood ratio in the first half, and Suigetsu posted 2 early 3Ks, it was not enough. In the first half, Karmine Corps would claim a 1v1 clutch, a 1v2 clutch, a 1v3 clutch, and to top it all off, Narrate himself would have a 1v5 clutch, which was absolutely absurd. I cannot believe that he was able to pull it off, because again, this man is an absolute talent. Getting the second pistol in the second half basically secured the map for Karmine Corps, and we move on to Sunset. The best way to describe it was just an absolute all-out brawl. Both teams were just fighting and trading back and forth. Like, the kill feed was literally boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. There was literally a round that went by so fast that I couldn't even register that 4 kills went away in like half a second. It was literally that fast. But pretty much the thing that NAVI has to get a really big shout out for, I don't know if it's Angel or Eric, I don't know who made the call, but they noticed that Karmine Corps do not mid-round very often. When they take space on a map, they will still hard force their way onto site, even if it's an unfavorable site take. We saw this consistently on Lotus against Foot, and we saw them consistently do this on Sunset and in Split as well. NAVI was able to stack the site very well, meeting KC's attack, and they just completely shut them down in the second half once they got rifles. KC could not really do much. Tamazi though was absolutely firing in this map. He ended with 24, 16, and 7 with 352 ACS, 4 double kills, and 3 triple kills. So shout out to him, because man, they have so much talent. These young guns, so much talent. Split would open up with NAVI on the defensive half, and they continued their defensive dominance, ending the half 9-3. And to close out the map, I really want to shout out Sugetsu, because he played incredibly well. In round 13, he was hiding in A main in sewers. Karmine Corps swarmed down ramp, and he hid in sewers away from them, and he basically secured the round with his spits, not peeking them and losing his life, knowing that he was the win condition. And he was able to close out the map with an incredible lurk through middle on Split, and he popped out through CT, securing a 3k and giving them a dub. Overall, really well played from NAVI. Karmine Corps definitely look like they're struggling, and I think they need to learn how to make more adaptations during the game. Do want to shout out Eng and Zeish though, as they just have the best coach camps ever. They are just the most polar opposites. I just love that Zeish will just absolutely freak out and have all this emotion. Eng will just be scribbling in his notepad, puts out his hand for a high five. Zeish like slaps it while he's freaking out, and Eng just goes back to writing. It's just the funniest shit in the world, and I love it. All right, to close out this video, I will be covering the 2 matches from Pacific that happened today, and that was Gen.G versus DRX and Bleed versus DFM. Gen.G versus DRX really showed to us that DRX are looking like an absolute contender, and I truly believe that they could be a international contender right now. Yes, we said this before about DRX, and yes, they made top 4 consistently in the past, but this team is different. The main thing that I really want to sell is that Bane has been such an incredible addition for this roster, and the move for Foxy9 to go to Sentinel is just absolutely understated, and he looks incredible with the role change. Gen.G would put up a pretty good fight in this matchup, especially Texture and Meteor, as Meteor would just have some incredible rounds solo winning them, but unfortunately it wasn't enough, as everybody from DRX was absolutely hitting. Buzz was entering like a madman, ending the series 14-7 in first kills to first deaths. Foxy9 again continues to prove that he is an incredible anchor player, and when he's tied to his utility and actually has to use his brain, he's actually really freaking good at it. He would end the series with 8 double kills, 4 triple kills, 1 quadra kill, 2 1v1 clutches, and 1 1v2 clutch, ending the series with 48, 36, 18 with 187 ACS. Speaking of the other quote-unquote rookie for this team is Bane, and I am going to be glazing Bane right now because oh my god, this kid is so freaking good. Bane is truly the best addition for this team in my opinion. He plays so many roles for them, covering Sova, Brim, Omen, Yoru. The way he is able to continue to put up very good numbers consistently across all these roles has just filled in so many holes within DRX's game. Yes, they had flexible players with Buzz, with RB, with Zest, but Bane has kind of allowed Stacks to really continue to be an incredible flash initiator player, picking up the KO, and you know, KO flashes are really OP and the best flash in the game right now in my opinion, and it allows Mako to be just one of the best Viper players in the world, and we already know that Mako is one of the best Viper players in the world. So shout out to Bane. He ended up top fragging this series, going 52, 40, and 27 with 218 ACS, and he showed up Karen as to why he should be regarded as Korea's best rookie. DRX are here for sure, and you can definitely see how going to Madrid has punished Gen.G, especially since they did not win. Although they do have 3 championship points from winning kickoff, the amount of time that some of these other teams have leveled up is really starting to show. And last but not least, we have the final matchup from today's games, and that was Bleed versus DFM. And yay, my boy has finally broken the loss curse. My man has not won a series since Valentine's Day of 2023, which is 432 days ago. And that is absolutely absurd. DFM would have a strong showing on their defensive side on Lotus. They would shut out Bleed after getting their rifles, and they would come back down from 5 to 9. Scary was really scary in this map, especially in the first half, posting 19 of his 26 kills in that half, but unfortunately he did run out of steam as DFM kind of found their footing in the map. Split, on the other hand, would just be pure domination from Bleed, and I really gotta say that the double duelist attack from Bleed with Ye on Raze and Darion on Jet looked so much better, and Ye looked so much more comfortable than he has before, and I genuinely think that this is what they needed, because he needs his Victor. If you look at optic system that they had in the past, it was Victor throwing in his body and Ye being like the second or third man in there to clean up with his incredible aim. And Darion can do that role, so let him throw himself in there. Shout out to them. They ended up closing out the map 13-7, 2 rounds of which were pistol and anti-eco to DFM. Ascent, on the other hand, was a pure Zest masterclass. Oh boy, man. Zest enjoyers rise up, because he is the king of Ascent. He dominated this map with Ye, and he absolutely shut down DFM's attack, and they pretty much could not go B, because my man just absolutely dominated that site completely. He had an Odin and he was frying. May did put up some impressive numbers despite the loss, going 15, 13, and 3 with 252 ACS, so he was definitely doing some work, but unfortunately was not enough. Zest continues to prove why he deserves a spot in tier 1, and I'm still sad that he got dropped from DRX, because he could play Sova, he could play Viper, but I digress. Anyways, he ended the map going 24-7-7 with 390 ACS, 2 2Ks, 2 3Ks, 2 4Ks, both of which were in the first 3 rounds of the map, where he started out 9-0, and by round 4 he was 12-1. If anything, this was definitely the Zest map. Bleed look a lot better, and they definitely showed a lot of improvement, but I still think they have a long way to go. But some of the new ideas that they had, the more proactivity that they had, I like the double duelist. I think it's coming together a little bit more. You can see they're getting more used to Scary's calling a little bit. Bleed enjoyers, they're not going to be winless, so shout outs to them. Poggers. Now for DFM, it was a tough loss to say the least. I think that although they did make an incredible showing winning against T1 last week, losing to Gen G is no shame, to be honest, but losing to Bleed afterwards can definitely be a hit to their confidence, and I think my DFM stonks might be dropping a little bit. I do want to shout out Sesu, as he did play incredibly well. He put up 41, 38, and 20 with 181 ACS on the Omen, and May is still a superstar. I think he continues to just be amazing. He did secure the only ace in the series, but unfortunately the rest of DFM could not keep up with the aimers from Bleed, because there's one thing that Bleed does not lack. It is aimers. That's for damn sure. Anyways, that will be it for this episode of Spike Defuse. Let me know down below in the comments what you think about the games that have happened today so far, or the games that I covered. Let me know what you think about this format. Do you enjoy me breaking down the games like this? Let me know what improvements I can make or any changes I can make. Feedback is much wanted and warranted, and I would appreciate it greatly. Anyways, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and until next time, stay hydrated. Peace.